Good afternoon. It's 2:30, so we'll get started. Let's start with a good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Joby Menon. I'm Director of Products for our Prisma Access and Globotech product line. And if you are in the Prisma Access with the Globotech track, you will see me presenting a few times in this Ignite. And the way I'm going to do the session is, like, my content is not for the entire 50 minutes. It'll probably be around 30 minutes or so. And the reason why I leave it like that is I'd like to have an interaction with the audience so that we can leave more time for Q&A, right? And doesn't have to be topic that is only covered in the presentation. I know I'll probably regret saying that, but that's okay. But we can talk about anything with Prisma Access in the Q&A section, okay? And in the end of the talk track, I'll also play a video to show some new capabilities that was announced in the all hands, so that you get familiar with, or at least have a preview or a view into what was announced in the keynote yesterday, okay? So in this session, we'll cover mostly about how do you try and get your branch and mobile users to be able to go out to the internet directly in a secure fashion and get access to all the applications, right? And why do you have to do that? The question comes from the fact, like, this is how the enterprise used to look like. Your users were behind a corporate headquarters. They had apps in that corporate headquarters. They would access those applications, business applications, which are right there. And in order to go out to the internet to browse general internet, you will have a perimeter which has a perimeter security, and it'll go through that. So life was good, easy, no complications. But what happened was, the business environment started changing. So it's not just managed devices anymore. You have different kinds of devices on your network, IoT devices, printers, unmanaged devices, people bringing their laptops, contractors, partners, they all come onto your network. And the apps also shifted from just being behind the headquarters into data centers, into public cloud. You consume applications as SaaS, Office 365, and then the general internet, right? So And your users started moving out from the headquarters to branch offices and mobile, right? We talked about this yesterday, where we were saying that about 40-45% of the workforce will be mobile, as per one of the researchers in the next couple years or so, which means people will be working from remote offices and remote networks, for example, Starbucks, home offices, airport, public Wi-Fi, and so on and so forth, right? And if that is the environment that we are going to operate in, the perimeter security that used to have one stack in the headquarters going out to the internet is not going to work anymore, right? So let's try and peel the onion to say that, okay, what are the challenges with this dynamic environment as the apps are shifting, the users are expanding into different locations, and if that happens, how does the security need to evolve, right? And so let's take branch office as the first use case, right? So when there's a branch offices, in order to do this security, what people did was you'll create an MPLS or an IPsec site to site from the branch back into your headquarters, and then backhaul all the traffic and go out to the internet. But as more and more apps are shifting to the cloud, SaaS, public cloud, internet, like we talked about, this is creating inefficiencies, right? As your mobile offices or the branch offices are expanding, they're becoming more and more global, and the number of branch offices are expanding. Backhauling all that traffic into one central site, or even few regional hubs, and going out to the internet is secure, yes, because it is getting inspected by the same security stack in your headquarters, but not efficient. Where I have now lost patience even for a second. Like, if I open up my phone, I need access to any applications instantly. Creating that few seconds of delay is not going to be working, right? So And then you also have applications that are living in the branch, and you needed to have branch-to-branch connectivity and branch-to-branch security. And if you're hairpinning everything to that, there's no connectivity there, which means there is no security from branch-to-branch communication. So that's a security risk in your environment. So people said, instead of that, let me backhaul even branch-to-branch traffic through the headquarters. But then again, the backhauling effect does not work, as more and more apps are not in your headquarters or data center anymore, they are elsewhere. So what's the next evolution of this problem, right? Next evolution came something called as secure web gateways, right? We said, okay, so if this is the problem, so let me deploy a secure web gateway so that I can have direct internet path to these applications from my branch offices. When you do this, you still have to maintain your MPLS or IPsec backbone because you still have applications in your headquarters or your data center. So you have not retired anything, you just added one more technology on top of it. What that means is now you could not save money anywhere, you're still paying for that something new that you have deployed. Now you have to manage, operate, policy, and all of that. And then secure web gateway is not the same as what you have in your headquarters. So you have created now policy fragmentation of what that policy looks like and what security looks like for your users. And they get different experiences because when they are in headquarters, they get different experience versus when they are in branch, they get different experience. Sorry, it's clicking too fast. I don't know what's going on. Or it's maybe just me. Okay. All right. We'll see. And also for SaaS applications, the secure web gateways do not provide any security for your SaaS application. They don't inspect SaaS applications, right? So a new technology called CASB came into market. Say that, okay, now I deploy a secure web gateway and I'll deploy a CASB in parallel in order to provide security that, no, okay, so I added one more tool on top of what was there in order to be able to provide all these use cases, right? So then people started becoming cute about it and said, okay, why don't I introduce a newer technology called SD-WAN? So he said, okay, now by deploying SD-WAN, I'm saving my MPLS cost, but I'm not doing much about the security aspect of it because I'm still backhauling everything into my central data center or the central headquarters where my security stack lived, and I'm still not solving the backhauling problem, though I got a cheaper connectivity option with SD-WAN as opposed to having to pay for MPLS. So that's good, but there's no security there and there's no performance improvement for your applications that exists in the cloud, okay? So the evolution continued and saying, okay, why don't I put an SD-WAN hub in the cloud so that my branches can actually have direct access to the internet through that hub in order to go out to the internet. But then this hub created solved a good connectivity problem for you to get access to the internet directly, but then it still doesn't solve the security problem because they were SD-WAN fabric or SD-WAN headends were designed to be more routing efficient, but they're not designed to have security the way it needs to be in order to look for the zero-day attacks and APTs of today's world, right? So this is where we said, okay, if we take all of these problems and try to create a solution for it, what does it look like? And that's where Prisma Access was born. And this has been validated by the new framework that Gartner defined, which is they're calling this as SASE, S-A-S-E. And this is what we, like Lee mentioned and Neer mentioned in the keynote as well yesterday. And the SASE is about being able to provide all this networking and security in one service as a service offering so that it simplifies the deployment and operational challenges as well as improves your security posture of an organization. And that's exactly what Prisma Access is trying to deliver, which is we create a layer around the world, and we have about 100 plus locations around the world where the Prisma Access service is available, and it provides network connectivity, and it provides routing for you to be able to get to these different applications, to all kinds of applications, whether the application is in your data center, whether the application is a SaaS, whether the application is deployed in public cloud, and also access to the internet. So it's providing connectivity, and then it provides full security capabilities, which PAN-OS or next generation firewall that you are already aware of, it provides that full security stack also, meaning it runs SSL decryption, it runs user ID, it runs app ID, it runs URL filtering, it runs threat prevention, it runs wildfire, it provides DNS security, all of that security capabilities in the cloud, ready and available to you to connect your branches into it. So provides networking, connectivity, and security from a platform globally deployed around the world in 100+ locations as a service offering. So that's what Prisma Access is about. And this is why it allows you to have direct access to the internet from your branch locations without compromising on any security posture. And you can manage this using the same management tools that you're already familiar with, and you can manage your data center firewalls or your perimeter firewalls and have the same consistent policy from the single pane of glass. Okay? So just to break this in a little bit more in the Prisma Access layer, what is there? So in the Prisma Access layer, there's a connectivity layer, there's a security layer, and then there's a management layer, right? So the branches, all branches will connect into the connectivity layer, and all the applications on the top can also connect into the connectivity layer so that you have full connectivity. And we mesh the network in the cloud for you so that you don't have to do that work. You just connect point-to-point connection from the branch or the headquarters or the data centers into the cloud, and we operate the mesh network inside the cloud for the best routing possibility for your applications. And then it's a fully connected environment, meaning any branch can talk to any other branch can talk to the headquarters, the branch can talk to the SaaS, branch can talk to the public cloud, and with full security applied on that traffic. No traffic is left blind. And all ports and all protocols. So it's not just about web traffic or SMTP or FTP. Everything can go through the firewalls and the security applied. And it's a full connected service. Right? So let's take an example of a few of our customers, what their environment looked like. So this is one of a technology customer. This is what their branch network looked like. So they have a guest VLAN and an enterprise VLAN, right? And the guest VLAN used to allow access to the internet, and the employee VLAN would redirect all the traffic to a central data center, and from where the traffic would go out to the internet. The problem for them that they had was because of the guest VLAN, users will come into the guest VLAN and they will browse whatever they need to browse, and that was creating an IP reputation problem for them. Because of that, these web applications or websites were blocking the customer's IP range, right? Because they're seeing that this is an attack on their particular services because it was not clean. And the employees were not having a good experience because their traffic was getting rerouted into the data center to go out to the internet. So when they looked at this, they said, okay, how can we solve this problem? And what they did was, this is what they did. They bought Prisma Access, and they started tunneling both guest VLAN and the employee VLAN through the Prisma Access and out to the internet. So it solved their IP reputation problem because now the traffic is getting inspected and all the malicious activities were getting blocked. And their employees were also getting faster access to the internet because it was going directly out from the branch without having to hairpin. It also provides them access to their data center applications, which was connected in their data center, right? And this is what the environment looked like. The customer had Cisco ISRs in the branch, and it is about 26 office sites across the world, like different locations in the world. And all of these different locations were able to connect into the Prisma Access service in order to provide that capability and uniform connectivity and uniform security policy for all of those sites. So there's no difference between a site in Mumbai or a site in Singapore or Seoul, for that matter. Everybody gets the same policy, right? So the second example, so this is another media company, and this is what their branch topology looked like. So very common. So they had branch, 2 ISPs going, and they were backhauling everything to the DC for internet access and access to the business applications. And they were running this entire framework over DMVPN. So pretty good, created good town. So there's no problem with the networking aspect of it. Like the DMVPN were reliable, it's a good service, no problem with that. But the application access was slow. So what they did was the first evolution of that, saying like, I'm going to keep my DMVPN running as is, and DMVPN, but now will only take traffic that is destined to the data center. Because I'm already having those VPN infrastructure built, I don't need to disable those, but I will have those traffic go out to the data center using whatever traffic is destined to that data center only. But on the other hand, I will create from the same devices, they created an IPsec side-to-side tunnel to Prisma access as well in order to provide direct connectivity into the internet, right? But now, because it is going through the Prisma access service, they were able to apply all the security policies, so they didn't have to give away any security in order to be able to provide this fastest path to the internet for their users, right? Same, they had about 250 sites, remote sites in different parts of the world, primarily US and Canada, but one site in India as well, right? This is what the environment looked like for them to be able to migrate. And this migration happened in a pretty short period of time. Another customer, a very large retailer, they had guest VLAN, payment network. So everything was, again, MPLS, private links, going out to the data center and going out to the internet from there. This is exactly what they told me about their problems, right? And they had slow access to SaaS applications. MPLS was very expensive, and they had to run lots of trainings and content for the store employees, and that was getting delivered from the headquarters. But then contents were used to live in the cloud, and it was not efficient for them to be able to deliver those training content, right? New product, new marketing campaigns run out, all the store employees needed to be trained on new stuff. So that was a business requirement. So in the first phase of that journey, what they did was they used Prisma Access to do the internet outbound traffic only, retained their MPLS for the traffic that is going to the data center, but then they reduced the MPLS footprint to save on some cost. And they used that savings in order to pay for the Prisma Access, so they didn't have to free up new budget in order to be able to do this, right? But they were able to save the money on the MPLS because now were not sending that much traffic through the MPLS network, right? In the next phase of it, they actually got rid of that MPLS completely, and they started routing everything through the Prisma Access. And this is, again, about so that their data center is also connected through it, and they started applying some QoS policies on their traffic in order to make the best use of the low bandwidth that in each of these remote sites have, like retailer, right? So if it's a retail store, it's not like unlimited bandwidth like an office space. So they had to be very efficient of how they route this traffic, so they started applying some QoS policies that is also available in Prisma Access. And for their environment, they onboarded about 1,600 retail stores in the US to the Prisma Access using this technology. And they were able to completely get rid of their MPLS cost, and there's no MPLS now that they run in the stores. Right. Switching gears, so that's branch. And let's talk about mobile workforce. We said like about 40% of your users are expected to be mobile workforce going forward, right? And so if that is the case, how do you provide the same security or the same access to your mobile workforce? Mobile workforce is a little bit of different challenge because they are not on your network, right? You don't control. The users could be anywhere. They could be connecting from any network. And how do you make sure that that network is connected back into the Prisma Access for you to be able to provide that service, right? So the same thing, the evolution of mobile users was always going to be a VPN, which was hosted on the headquarters. There's a VPN gateway. All mobile users will connect into that VPN gateway, and you will have an always-on full tunnel, and you will go out and access these applications. Again, not efficient, right? Because if more and more applications are going to the cloud, why would you want to backhaul all your users into a central data center site through a VPN channel and then egress out to those internet applications? Not efficient. So people said, I'm going to do split tunneling, right? for obvious reasons. And if you do split tunneling, which means that you're going out to the internet directly, no security, and it just takes like 5-10 minutes of free internet browsing for you to get infected, not more than that. And you do that, and then these users will come back into your organization, connect into your network, and then the lateral spread happens, right? That's the most common infection way of getting into your network. Doesn't matter how good your corporate network is, how secure it is, the moment the user is out, get infected, come back in, and now you're trying to stop lateral movement as opposed to trying to stop a device getting infected to begin with. Much, much, much bigger problem, right? If a threat is inside, it's much harder to detect as opposed to stopping a threat from reaching the endpoint by itself, right? So, public cloud apps. So if your apps are going into the data center, the same problem, right? People started using Direct Connect, Express Route, and so on and so forth to connect the public cloud infrastructure into the corporate headquarters, but then the problem still remained. In order to provide that access to those applications, everything has to be backhauled to your corporate headquarters and then provide access into the public cloud application that exists in the public cloud, because that's where your Express Route or Direct Connect or those kind of connections exist. And then the same problem, like the internet is no secure, right? So in order to do this, like again, the famous proxy, like Neer likes to put it, also started coming into the picture, which says, oh, okay, so let me provide some security for my users that are going out to the internet through that proxy, but you're still not giving away your VPN. You still have to have your remote access VPN client on the endpoint. You still have to have your proxy client on the endpoint, and they have to have different policies. You still do the split tunneling. 2 clients have to work together. All the problems that operationally you will have to run into and solve in order to solve this problem, right? So this is where GlobalProtect was designed, and in the last numbers is like tens of thousands of large enterprise customers are on GlobalProtect, and it solves that both problems. So you deploy a GlobalProtect infrastructure around the world, and then the user connects through GlobalProtect app into the GlobalProtect service or the subscription or the firewalls, and they get access to all the applications with full security and inspection provided. But there's one problem with this picture. The problem with this picture was that the customer was responsible for deploying this infrastructure around the world. So how do you deploy this large infrastructure and operate and manage and so on and so forth? Many customers were able to successfully do that, but not everybody do not have the bandwidth or the capacity to be able to deploy and manage and operate such large infrastructure to provide the best user experience, right? So that's where the Prisma Access for mobile users came into play, saying that what if I take that pain point of that infrastructure deployment from my customers, and we provide that as a service to our customer, that makes the adoption much, much simpler. So the idea here is that, again, we have the Prisma Access layer available in 100+ locations around the world. You just install the same GlobalProtect app onto the endpoint, and the GlobalProtect app will automatically find the closest available gateway in the cloud for that user to connect into, and it can provide access to all your applications on the back end, and the user just opens up their laptops and start working, and it is providing the best optimal path out of the user's network or the user's device into the applications. Direct access to the internet with full security applied to that traffic, right? Very similar concept to the branch. The difference is, though, is like because the users are in your public networks one at a time, you have to connect all of them into the service, and for that, you need to deploy this one GlobalProtect app. It replaces your proxy client on the endpoint, it replaces your VPN client on the endpoint, and it provides one seamless 100% connectivity and security for the users. And again, apps doesn't matter whether they're in public cloud, SaaS application, or your corporate data centers, the client can provide connectivity to all of those different locations while providing best and the fastest path for the user to go out to the internet. Okay? Make sense? All right. Switching gears a little bit. Yes, all of this is great. Now, how do I manage all of this, right? So this is where we had said, like, Panorama has been the tool for a management tool for all of this so that you can manage using, everybody knows what Panorama is? Anybody in the room who doesn't? Don't know? You do have Panorama. The question is, who doesn't have Panorama or doesn't know about Panorama? You don't have it, but you understand what it is. Okay. All right, so there's not too many hands in the room, so which is great, which means that you understand what Panorama is. Panorama is what used to be the management platform for managing Prisma Access. And the advantage of that Panorama is, like, if you are already managing firewalls from Panorama, the Prisma Access just becomes another device group or template stack in that. So you don't have to recreate your policies. You don't have to recreate your configurations. You can just manage it from Panorama. But there are many customers which says, like, I have a different team who manages my security for internet access versus the deep firewalls in the data centers and so on and so forth. So different team, different staff, different requirements, so that's fine. And I don't want that team to be deploying and managing a Panorama by themselves. And there are certain customers who are born in the cloud, right? They don't have any equipment on-prem. For them, deploying a Panorama and managing and operating a Panorama was not right. So two different set of customers, two different set of requirements. You pick which one of the two platforms you want. But because of that, we introduced this cloud management portal as well. And if anybody who buys Prisma Access get access to the cloud management portal by itself, right? So as a customer, depending on your environment and your choice and your organization, you can pick which one of the two platforms you want to manage Prisma Access with. Cloud managed or Panorama managed. Okay. This was something that Lee announced in the keynote yesterday. So I thought it would be good to give you a little bit preview or a demo of what that cloud management means. So it's a very workflow enabled. So unlike Prisma or unlike Panorama, so it is very tailored to manage Prisma Access only. So the cloud management today does not manage on-prem firewalls. So if you want one management platform that has to do both firewalls and Prisma Access, Panorama is the way to go. But if you want to just manage Prisma Access, then cloud management will be a better option for those customers, right? And so workflow, it is a very workflow-driven configuration. Meaning, like, if you know that Prisma Access, we already know firewalls, you don't have to do any firewall deployment, so there's no layer 3 layer network interfaces or anything like that to be configured. So we abstracted all of that out of that management console to provide a very workflow-enabled configuration management so that you can get up and running pretty quickly. That's the whole idea behind that, right? So let's just take a look at how does the journey begin with cloud management? We'll take questions at the end of the presentation, right? We are close. Yeah, I'll get done in 3 minutes, and then we will open it up for questions. So this is just a very quick video of how the activation happens. Have you seen this interface, anybody? This is Palo Alto Networks Hub, which we previously used to call as App Portal. And all applications that we are going to build from the Cortex data lake and so on and so forth will start showing up in this hub model, right? So you start activating it through the hub, and this is what the activation looks like. You have a Prisma Access app that will show up. The user will click on it, and they will just have to activate Cortex data lake, pick up the region where the Cortex data lake exists, and you enter your auth code, and you activate the service. That's as simple as that, right? There's nothing to deploy, nothing to operate, nothing to manage. You just go to the web and enter the auth codes that you have purchased, and you can just start activating. So you just activated your data lake, and now you can continue to activate your Prisma Access licenses. Okay, a little bit slower than I thought it would be in a big room, but it's all right. And it also now you saw that it was also linking your Prisma SaaS instances. So now you have one management platform from where you can manage your SaaS application policies for offline, get visibility into completely. So it is providing you a complete CASB solution as well in one platform, right? It has full API capabilities. It also has inline security for your SaaS applications. You're linking the two together to provide common visibility, monitoring, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the provisioning is happening, and this is all you need to do for the instances to become available in there. And the status changes, and you know what happened, right? And you can now start activating your auth codes that you bought, for example. All right, so I'm going to skip a little bit to the next slide, which is now once the app is completely activated and so on, and you land it and you configure it, this is what the interface would look like. It's the dashboard that you land in, how many users, how many networks that you have onboarded, how many data centers that you have connected into the service. I'll start showing that. So very familiar to the policies where you can configure all your objects and policies and so on and so forth. But Explore is the tab where you will be able to see all the logs that got generated from the platform. Okay, the video is not playing. Okay, something got stuck. Well. So the setup is pretty simple. You just define the domain that you want the user to get connected to, and you pick the locations where you want this service to be deployed in. Generally, many customers will deploy all locations that are available worldwide, and this is the locations that are available, right, that the service can be deployed in. You just pick whatever locations you want to. You could do select all also. There's no cost for selecting all locations, but there are some customers who want to start slow, and they want to roll out to all global locations in a time manner, and that's totally fine, and that is what this feature is doing. You can select the ones that you really want to deploy in, but there's availability in almost all regions around the world. And you can pick locations in Asia if you want to, or you can deploy worldwide locations. So it also has a list view for you to be able to see all the locations where you are deploying it. And once this is done, you just do commit and push, and that's all you need to do. So you can also create some temporary test users to quickly test the service. And as the name says, this is just a temporary test user for you to be able to quickly test the service before you roll it out to your corporate users. And this is it. And you commit and push, and a worldwide infrastructure of firewalls ready for your users to connect to and start accessing services available. Right? If you have to typically deploy these kind of firewalls by yourself, it's a month or project. But here with this interface, you should be able to do within few clicks, right? And with that temporary users, the policies are also pre-configured and predefined. Best policies for all the threat inspections for the internet outbound locations, and there you go, you're done. This is how long it will take for you to be able to get up and running with Prisma Access. And it will also tell you about what are the few things that you can do in order to test the service. And this is where you can also instruct the user to go and download the client and start using the service if they wanted to, or however way you want to distribute the client to the end users. Okay. So that was the mobile users, and very similarly, the remote network also, you can onboard a remote network. All you need to provide is some of the bandwidth allocations that you want, and it also comes with what locations you want to connect the site to, and we also have a lot of the templates for the devices that may exist on the endpoint, pre-configured and predefined, so that you can just pick those devices and onboard your sites too. Okay, so I'm going to skip to this last one. And there's also one, if there's an environment where you cannot have client installed on the endpoint and you wanted to provide reverse proxy kind of security solutions for your SaaS applications, again, for an inline CASB solution without having to deploy a client on the endpoint, there's also Prisma Access provides that service also. For example, in this case, if the user is trying to go to Gmail, when they try to sign in, it can be connected to your single sign-on engine, but if you'll start seeing that in the URL, it has started transforming that into the Prisma Access service, so that now you can start monitoring all the traffic. There's no portal or anything for the user to go to. The user just does what they do, which is going into an application that they are generally doing, but in the back end, that application is now getting rerouted through Prisma Access so that you have full control and full visibility into what those applications are and what the user is doing within those applications. So you can apply your security policies. And the user doesn't need to know that their workflow hasn't changed. They just open up their laptops and start working. But all the magic happens in the back end from that perspective, right? So I'll skip to that. So again, like if you see that the URL has changed, their Gmail is going through the Prisma Access service for that Gmail to load and so on and so forth. And now you can get access to all the G Suite applications, not just email, but the Drive and all the other applications. They will all flow through Prisma Access. So you have full visibility and full control of what the user can do within these applications. So at this point, this is what the overall architecture looks like, different ways to connect into the service, and different security technologies that will get applied to the traffic once the users are in the, and I guess I lied a little bit. It went into a little bit more than 36 minutes. So I'll pause here so that we can open it up for questions. Okay. Well, you still have a question, or? Okay.
Good questions.
You give that out, Navinath. All right, how about that?
Okay, the first question, when the Prisma Access demo can be available for partners?
Prisma Access demo can be available. So Prisma Access demo is already available for partners. So we have demo.paloaltonetworks.com. The URL, I'm not sure, but the same thing should be available from the support portal.
Okay.
Not with cloud management, but it is available with the Panorama system. So that the demo portal that you already access should also have the Prisma Access demo in it.
Okay, second question, can we use Panorama and Prisma Access cloud application at the same time?
Not at the same time. So you have to make a choice whether you want to use Panorama or cloud. Again, config sync, config management, all of that from different platforms is not the right version 1.0 feature for us to build. So yes, no, you have to make a choice between whether you want to use Panorama or Cloud Manage and use one of the two. Once you decide to go one route, there's no coming back. You have to stick to it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Does Prisma Access support some level of data encryption, right? So whenever it goes through your portal, right, I'm able to encrypt data. So if it's at Google Drive, then it's actually encrypted with the keys we have instead of just normal Google.
So you said like encrypt the data, right? So there's a couple things that goes on. Like so we are an inline network security, traffic security play, right? So which means that as the traffic is going through the firewall, we're not saving or any traffic from there. It just comes in, gets inspected, and goes out, and that's it. The traffic payloads are gone, right? If you wanted to inspect the traffic, and if you want to do SSL decrypt, yes, you can bring your own keys to the service, and you can intercept that SSL, decrypt it, inspect it with your own keys, and we don't have access to it, but you'll have to upload the server certificate, the PKI infrastructure or the keys to the service. Once the traffic is gone, then the logs get generated, right? And that logs are getting saved in the Cortex data lake. And in that one, today you cannot bring your own keys, but the Cortex data lake is also migrating into another service wherein it will allow the Cortex data lake to be encrypted at rest, not with your own keys, but with the keys that we encrypt the data with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have a question regarding Global Protect. If you want to protect the mobile user, the connection to internet, web browsing, do you need to send as well the connections to your data center through Prisma, or do you have the option to create like two tunnels, one for the internet connection and the other one for the data center connection?
Right. So there's only one tunnel from the client, right? And what happens is once the client connects to the Prisma Access Gateway, all traffic comes to the Prisma Access Gateway, and a routing decision is made there. So if the traffic is destined to go out to the internet, it will egress out from our service directly out to the internet. If the traffic is destined to come into your data center, then it will make the traffic decision and it will route the traffic back into your data center from the Prisma Access. So your firewall is becoming the routing point and the decision point. So effectively, it is doing split tunneling, if you will, but the split is happening in the cloud by the firewall with full security policies applied. And that's the right way to do it, in my opinion, and we can have conversation like creating multiple tunnels from the client. In order to do that, imagine like how many your data center firewalls will also have to be capable of creating thousands of tunnels from all the locations or all the mobile users around the world. And the client is also now have to do 2 encryption domains in order to manage. It will have to do more processing on the client to be able to do that, more troubleshooting, more monitoring, more operational hassles, as opposed to you going into one place. You get full visibility in the cloud for what the traffic needs to be, and you have full control of how you want to route the traffic. And it may not be that your applications is only in one data center. Your application may be in 3 or 4 data centers. So at that point, will you create tunnels for each of those data centers or not? Right? So one tunnel from the client to the cloud, and the cloud decides how many tunnels you want to build or how many data centers you want to connect into the cloud, makes much more efficient and optimized routing decisions, visibility control policy, and all of that.
Yeah, I am thinking more in sensitive data that you don't want to send through the cloud. I'm thinking maybe data that you have in the data center that you don't want to send to any cloud, right? I'm thinking more on that.
It is full end-to-end encrypted, and again, like I said, this is traffic coming in. We are not storing any of the traffic in the cloud. It is full encrypted. It's your IPsec tunnels from here and IPsec tunnels from the client. We don't have access to any traffic that is going through. It is your own dedicated data plane. So that's also an interesting thing from a Prisma Access perspective. The firewalls that are running in the cloud as part of the service is a dedicated data plane to each customer. We're not sharing the data plane with any other customer. So your traffic is your own dedicated data plane. So customer A's traffic is not intercepting customer B's traffic. And there's no performance impact for customer A trying to send gigabytes of data through the service, and the customer B is only sending megabytes of data through the service. No impact to each other. It's all dedicated data plane. Okay, any other?
Hi, so I'm basically interested, and I don't know if you directly involved with deploying the deployment of Prisma Access architecture, but what concerns me is how successful is this with branches located on APAC region and more precisely on China, mainland China.
So there are many customers that are deploying services in Asia as well. China is a different topic by itself. It's you have to deal with the Chinese regulations, all that, right? So it's not possible for you to provide a service, an encryption service in China as a service provider unless you have what they call as MITT license from the Chinese government. So we looked at all the different options of how do you provide service in China, and there's no cost-effective way to it, right? The best and the most economical way for you to do that is like you deploy your own equipment in China. And the good thing is Palo Alto Networks has VM series firewall, we have hardware firewalls, you can deploy it in China, but then there's a way for you to connect that back into the service so that you can connect into the rest of the infrastructure. So there's a very good written white paper that we have published, and there are many customers who actually use that white paper in order to deploy, and they're very happy with it because the alternative that we provided was very expensive for them, and there's not too much benefit because you still have to be the license holder in China to be able to have that again.
Okay,
topic,
so
but there's a white paper we can send that to you
okay,
if
thanks. So it's great that you have this on the radar because it's one of our main problems right now.
Yeah, but there is a solution already exists, and we have very prescriptive solution of how you can solve that problem. Talk to your sales team, and they should be able to get on hold of me, and I can give them a white paper on how you actually enable and deploy this.
Great, thank you.
In continuation to what he is saying, so you can integrate like your, for example, on-prem gateways or any other gateways that are not within the Prisma
Correct.
access into Prisma
That is
access,
correct.
right?
So yes, hybrid deployment is 100% and fully supported, and that's again the beauty of Palo Alto Networks because we can allow that. You don't have to choose one or the other. You can use your existing investment that you already have as a gateway, and you can also augment that with Prisma Access for some of the locations if you wanted to. Okay, so there was a.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. The first one, are you thinking it's possible for the customers to create an NI directly with the Prisma's access?
I'm not sure I followed your question. If you can repeat, don't
So,
mind.
for example, we have an NI directly with GCP, okay, from our data center. We are connecting directly with GCP environment, okay. So let's start for the second one. The Prisma access could supply, or do you think that we can use the Prisma inside the GCP? Right now, we are using a virtual Palo Alto inside the GCP environment.
Yeah, so there are some customers, so it depends on what is in your GCP workloads, right? So if it is you're using that GCP workload as a entrance into the workload, well, it means like it's like a data center for you, and the user have to get access to those applications, and that applications are only way to get access to that application is through your internal users. Then you can just treat that as another data center, and like I'm saying in the previous slide that we talked about, wherein you can use that as a, well, doesn't matter, as a service connection into it, and then you don't have to deploy a firewall in it. But if you want to protect the workloads that are running inside that VPC, then you will have to deploy a firewall at the edge of the VPC, just like you will deploy a firewall at the edge of a data center.
Yeah, because we are using GCP as a data center, we have some.
Yeah.
We store some critical information there, and we put a virtual Palo there just to protect the access. Just if we go deeper of the.
Correct. So if you have so it's just like another data center. At that point, you will the recommendation will be to deploy a VM series firewall in front of the data center, but then you provide your users access into the data centers through the Prisma access, so that your policies are getting applied, and then it's just a connection into your data center for you to be able to inspect the traffic and apply.
And coming back to the first question is, I don't know if you have your own data centers or if you're using Equinix or doesn't matter right now. If you are using a shared data center with other entity, AT&T or whatever other, there is a possibility, or isn't the roadmap just that a customer could run a direct connection with your Prisma access, just to avoid to have all the Palo Altos in the data centers?
Yeah. So the answer to the first question, Ed, who's our service provider for all the caging and the equipments and the racks that we use? The answer is all of them. Just kidding, sorry. It's impossible for you to have that with anybody, right? So we are using public cloud to host Prisma Access for the reasons why, like, Google and AWS, for that matter, GCP and AWS. So we are using all their compute locations around the world to provide the service. And the reason why we very specifically chose public cloud is for the speed and the agility, as opposed to we trying to go and deploy a firewall or a rack space or try to go with the physical equipment. So right now, it's just an API call away for us to get new and on-demand scaling, for example. Say, for example, the demand shifts, and you have 100,000 users coming from US for one day. How do you scale for that? Because it's all through software automation, we can scale those number of firewalls and spin up 100,000 firewalls or how many it's required in that region, and then scale it down whenever we don't need it. So all that dynamicity can only be applied if you are providing it through a public cloud infrastructure. And that allows us to take advantage of that public cloud as they're building more and more data centers and premium networks around the world. So we are running in Google and AWS. Okay, anyone else? Okay, next to you.
Quick question around the reverse proxy that's actually showing on the screen. I see you use a URL rewrite, but for some use cases, it's a bit unfortunate that if you need to copy a URL of an application and send to somebody else, you always have that long URL. Is there any other method to actually pass the traffic through a reverse proxy without doing URL rewrites? And is there any, just in combination with that question, can you also tie the new DLP solutions into this this specific reverse proxy thing?
Yep, absolutely. So first of all, I'm not sure why would you send a URL to a user, right? No, but you are sending the URLs to the actual application to the user. And in the back end, if you did the configuration right, the redirect and everything is going to happen automatically for the user. So they don't need to get to the URL of the reverse proxy engine, right?
Let me just give you an example. A spreadsheet on Google Drive.
Users will send a link to somebody else.
Yeah.
And they're now compliant with the
They share links. Like
Yeah.
a spreadsheet on Google Drive is just spread around everyone, right? So
Yeah, so you can send the spreadsheet link to a user to say share, and when they click on that link or the shared link, what will happen is they still have to do the authentication, right? Mm-hmm. And when that authentication happens, that is when you are capturing that redirect, and it will automatically get redirected through the URL, through the reverse proxy, to the actual sheet itself.
yeah, and then what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So that person will do some change on that spreadsheet, and then we'll copy the same link, which now has appended the whole URL and sends to somebody else, right?
Okay.
So, and then I just want, if that, does that has any implications when the person that received that long link is going to be rejected somewhere else, or is going to work, or how?
I don't know. We'll have to try it. Like, what will happen because of the redirect? The original URL, like, there's a share function in Google Sheet, right? So you usually share it through that. But people, if are going to copy the URL is already ugly for the share. Yeah. If you look at that, it's a long wind URL. We'll have to try. Whether at that redirect, it will still going to challenge them to authenticate and all the workflow. Whether after the authentication, does it land exactly on the same sheet or not? I don't know. We'll have to try.
This is what I want to know, because this is the challenge, because we have this problem like every day. Everyone just share like Google Drive sheets and docs, and when we start appending URLs, that's when the problem starts, because then we don't know the behavior that it's going to happen. So.
Or if they send it to somebody who's not
Oh, yeah.
the company,
Yeah, yeah.
an external user who won't be able to authenticate
True.
to the reverse proxy.
Yeah. What was the second part of your question?
if
The
there's
DLP.
a
Yes, the
DLP.
DLP. Yes, DLP will be available or is available as part of the reverse proxy, as part of the Prisma Access, the client branch network, or reverse proxy, all of the use cases. The new DLP service that we just announced in the keynote yesterday, that DLP service will be available in Prisma Access. Right now, it is available in eval mode only. It is core data plane. Like we have modified the data plane to be able to provide this inline networking DLP. So I want to have some field time. And again, I'm a product guy, so I'm being open with you here. I want to have some field time for the DLP engine to make sure that it is working as we designed it to be before I offer it for somebody to buy it and deploy it in production. So a couple months months of eval, and then when we have some good field data, I will open it up for it being sold and available to customers. But it will just be an add-on to your Prisma Access deployment. You just buy the additional DLP license, and it will be available for you to consume it in all the different places. You had a question here, sir.
Okay, my question here, I'm from the networking team, and nowadays we are managing all the all the network. We have more than 1,000 branches. So nowadays we have visibility really from all the traffic. If there is any problem in a branch, the question is for the networking team, not for the security team. When we are going to this new solution, you are putting together the network and the security. The question is, are the networking team will have also visibility of all the traffic, what's happening? Can we capture if there is any problem in one branch, I can see what's happening in the branch. Can I capture the traffic from that branch, perhaps?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And this is one of the reasons why the other product that we also announced as part of the keynote, if you paid attention to that, was the SD-WAN capability for us, right? So what that means is if you deploy the Palo Alto Networks firewalls in the branch also, as opposed to a third-party device, there's no way that the service will be able to capture networking traffic from a Cisco device that is on the branch. We can only see what is being shown in the cloud. So if the traffic comes to the cloud, then we will know what's going on, and we will be able to provide visibility into it. But something that is happening that has not left your network, what happened, there's no connectivity, there's no visibility, right? So for that is one of the other reasons why we decided to get into that SD-WAN market, so that we can provide end-to-end visibility for our customers, right? So if the box happens to be a Palo Alto Networks device also with SD-WAN enabled on it, and Prisma Access becomes the hub for that SD-WAN connectivity, then we will be able to provide end-to-end visibility of connectivity, traffic flow, and everything. And that is one of the main ideas behind that project and the product.
But you have nowadays all these functionalities. Are they working?
Yeah, so the SD-WAN capabilities right now is in beta. There are many customers who are already trying it out. So you should play it like dynamic path selection, jitter monitoring, latency monitoring, failover. They're all already part of the platform. So give it a try. And within the next 3 to 6 months, I think it will have everything else also, like forward error corrections and so on and so forth.
And do you know when are you going to be in production?
Yeah, it will be by the end of the year, it should go live.
Yeah? Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
So I have actually 2 questions. The first one is about the data that is stored, yeah? So, I mean, usually when we have firewall logs, we don't store it in the cloud, yeah? So that would be the first service now to store really in the data lake that information.
The logs only.
The logs only, of course.
And you can control, sorry, I didn't let you finish the question, but you control what you want to log, right? So it's a firewall policy, and you can decide whether you want to log certain things or you don't want to log certain things. So,
okay. So I've seen we can store the information either in the Americas, so in the US most likely, US data center, or in an EU data center?
Correct. So you can pick and choose which one of the 2 locations that you want your logs to be saved in, EU or Americas. We don't allow you to save in multiple locations, because then like reporting, visibility, it's a different problem, right? Like if you have split brains in that scenario, sometime in the future, maybe we'll write an app to provide all the consolidation. But today you can decide which of the 2 centers you want to store all your logs in. You can decide whether you want to be it in EU or you want it to be in the US.
Okay, super. And the other question is about the gateways itself. I mean, you showed us we can select out of 100 gateways. Why should we pick and choose? Well, or let's put it differently. I think network costs in different regions have a different price point usually, yeah? Is that the case also for that?
Good question. Like I said in the talk track, is like up to you. There's no additional cost for you to choose all 100 locations at the onset itself.
It's the same price also.
It's the same price. The reason why we provided this location-based is like when I go into the customer and I start talking about it, they always want to do a slow rollout. They're saying that, okay, let me try with few locations, let me open it up for few users, my test users are in this region. I don't want to overwhelm them with everything showing. You can hide You can even hide all the 100 locations you can enable, and you can don't show any of them. But again, it's a gradual process for somebody to try POC, deploy it few regions, and then enable it for a whole global deployment and so on and so forth. So depends on your appetite to consume all locations. If you want to consume all in one shot, go for it.
Cool. And the last question is, we have some experiences with various cloud proxy providers, yeah? So cloud proxy in the cloud. So the question is there also some failover mechanism if one of the tunnels is failing that we flip over to another gateway then? Is that automatically built in or possible?
Yeah, so two things, right? One for the mobile users, because all the 100 gateways are available for the users, and the client is designed in such a way that if they are not able to connect to the best, fastest performing gateway in that moment in time, it will try the second gateway and third gateway and fourth gateway and so on.
Exactly like today with Global Protect, yeah.
So resilience is built into that for the mobile user. For the remote network, because it's a point-to-point tunnel connection, you have to know the IP address of the other end in order to create your tunnel too. So there, like I said in one of the slides, I said there was 2 ISPs that the retailer had, and they're creating 2 tunnels to the Prisma Access service. So depending on how many tunnels you want to create, we, from the cloud service perspective, we deploy it in 2 different AZs. The HA is provided across 2 different AZs, so we manage that availability in the cloud automatically. And you can deploy 2 ISPs and create a primary link and a secondary IPsec tunnel to the cloud and do the failover on your side as well. But if you want more resilience across geos and all that, then you'll have to create 2 different tunnels and do all the routing management on your side to decide which of the 2 to go through and so on and so forth.
Okay, and just from experience, is there some mechanism to really check whether the connection is still up, yeah? I mean, because sometimes
both
you have
sides. So the tunnel
exactly.
monitoring is available from both ends. You can monitor the tunnel from your end, but the cloud also monitors the tunnel on their end to flip-flop.
Okay, cool.
Okay. It's all good. I'm here for another 10 minutes, but it's already 10 minutes past our time. But if you have any other questions, happy to take it. But else, I have to do my next session at 4 o'clock, wherein we'll be showing about all the Prisma Access features. 4 o'clock. Okay, thank you, everybody.